Hey guys, I wanted to give you something a little bit different to do. So this is a music trivia game. So I'm going to go to presentation mode here. All right, so you should be seeing my whole screen here. And we're just going to go through this little game. There are 12 questions, so you can either write them down to the side or just wait and I'll give you each answer as we go through. So you have multiple choice. So a lot of the questions I got from this website here, if you want to check out some more trivia questions. And some of them I kind of made up myself. All right, so question number 1. Before batons, what did conductors use to direct the orchestra? A flute or piccolo. B, a violin bow or rolled piece of. C, a drumstick or medicine vial. Or D, they tapped their foot. So one more time, question number 1 is, before batons, what did conductors use to direct the orchestra? Was it A, a flute or piccolo, B, a violin bow or rolled piece of paper, C, a drumstick or medicine vial, or D, they tapped their foot? And the correct answer is B, a violin bow or rolled piece of paper. So that's just kind of something interesting. And then prior to that, before they even had a conductor, it would usually be the composer or whoever was directing would kind of just wave their hand while sitting at the harpsichord, or the first violin, which is known as the concertmaster, would have led the group. That's question number 1. All right, moving on. Number 2. Elgar's Nimrod variations are each inspired by someone Elgar knew: his wife, his viola student, his best friend, etc. One of the movements is about an animal. Which animal was it about? Was it A, his Siamese cat, B, his friend's bulldog, C, his wife's parrot, or D, his son's horse? And again, we're trying to figure out which movement of Elgar's Nimrod variations is about an animal. Your options are A, his Siamese cat, B, his friend's bulldog, C, his wife's parrot, or D, his son's horse. And the correct answer is B, his friend's bulldog. So there are several variations, and the each one has 3 letters, so like CAG, and those are the initials of the people or bulldog that he wrote about. So that's a pretty cool piece. Check it out if you have a chance. Question number 3. How old was Mozart when he wrote his first composition? Was he A, 5 years old, B, 7 years old, C, 10 years old, or D, 16 years old? And one more time, the question is, how old was Mozart when he wrote his first composition? A, 5 years old, B, 7 years old, C, 10 years old, or D, 16 years old? And the answer for that, 5 years old when he wrote his first composition. So most of us weren't even in kindergarten yet, whereas Mozart is writing music. And then you can check it out if you want to listen to what it sounds like. It's Minuet and Trio in G major by Mozart. And he wrote it at 5 years old. Go check it out. Question number 4. What did Benjamin Britten use to simulate raindrops in his opera for amateur musicians, Neues Flügel? Was it A, drumsticks on buckets, B, beans inside of tin cans, C, teacups filled with water, or D, paper under the bass strings? So again, what did Benjamin Britten use to simulate raindrops in his opera for amateur musicians? A, drumsticks on buckets, B, beans inside of tin cans, C, teacups filled with water, or D, paper under bass strings? The correct answer is teacups filled with water. So Benjamin Britten also wrote the the symphony for symphony. For sure, you have heard that before. And then just going back here for a second, this paper under the bass strings is kind of an extended technique that some more modern composers have used. And that's another kind of cool sound effect that you can get that kind of has a big snap sound. It sounds like a cannon. So that's just something a little bit different. Number 5. How many children did J.S. Bach have? A, none, B, 2, C, 5, or D, 20? And again, the question is, how many children did J.S. Bach have? A, none, B, 2, C, 5, or D, 20? The answer is 20. So J.S. Bach had 20 children, and some of them did actually follow in their father's footsteps and become composers, one of which was Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach. So you'll find CPE Bach for short is a lot of compositions for him as well. And then just a side note, only 10 of them survived into adulthood. So he did have several children who had passed away when they were young. Okay, number 6, halfway through. Which composer sent a series of love letters to an unknown woman who he referred to as his immortal beloved? So which composer was the romantic here and sent a series of love letters to an unknown woman who he referred to as his immortal beloved? Was it A, Berlioz, B, Beethoven, C, Brahms, or D, Bach? Again, the questions are the options are A, Berlioz, B, Beethoven, C, Brahms, or D, Bach. And the answer is Beethoven. So there's even a film titled Immortal Beloved, which is fictional, but is a portrayal of his life, a little bit adult rated. So make sure you check with your parents before you watch it. But those are Berlioz, Beethoven, and Brahms all fall into the romantic era of composers, but Beethoven was our answer there. Another famous piece by him that is to a woman is called Für Elise, and meaning for Elise, and that's a famous piano piece a lot of you have heard if you want to go check that out. All right, number 7. We're going to do a little bit of musical math here. What number equals the total keys on a piano plus the valves on a trumpet? So how many keys are there on a piano and how many valves on a trumpet? So are there 70 piano keys and 3 trumpet valves, which equals 73? Is it 78 piano keys and 4 trumpet valves, which equals 82? Is it 84 piano keys and 4 trumpet valves, which equals 88? Or is it 88 piano keys and 3 trumpet valves, which equals 91? And again, I'll just read the totals: 73, 82, 88, or 91. What is the answer to our musical math question of the total keys on a piano plus how many valves a trumpet has? The answer is 91. So we have 88 keys on the piano, white and black keys. Each of those is a key. And then we have 3 valves on the trumpet that get pushed down to change the pitch. Number 8. Why didn't Holst include Pluto as one of the planets in his composition? So Holst's Planets is a famous piece of music, and the Pluto was not one of those planets in his composition. So why did he not include it? Was it because A, Pluto was his least favorite planet, B, he didn't want the piece to be too long, C, Pluto hadn't been discovered yet, or D, he did write a movement for Pluto, but it wasn't published? So again, your options for why Holst did not include Pluto as one of his compositions would be as one of the planets in his composition. And your options are A, Pluto was his least favorite planet, B, he didn't want the piece to be too long, C, Pluto hadn't been discovered yet, or D, he did write a movement for Pluto, but it wasn't published? Your answer, C, Pluto hadn't been discovered yet. So, in addition to not writing a movement for Pluto, he also did not write a movement for Earth because it was supposed to be about the other planets. So, just kind of interesting fact there. That's a great piece of music if you haven't listened to it. Each of the planets also includes their Greek mythological name, so like Mars, the bringer of war, so it kind of goes along with the mythology too. So that's a really great one if you need something to listen to while you're studying and doing your e-learning. All right, question number 9. What is the name of a famous violin virtuosi who was born, or virtuoso, let me fix that. Name of a famous violin virtuoso who was born in Italy in 1782. And a clue, a hint, is that he was so good at playing violin that rumors spread stating that he had sold his soul to the devil in exchange for being able to play well. So, born in Italy in 1782, rumored to have sold his soul to the devil to be able to be the best at violin. So, our options are Joshua Bell, Fitz, Isaac Perlman, or Niccolo Paganini. And again, your options, Joshua Bell, Jascha Heifetz, Isaac Perlman, or Niccolo Paganini. These all four are famous violin virtuosi, but only one of them is our rumored person from the question. And the answer is Niccolo Paganini. So Paganini, if you've heard some of his caprices, especially for violin, he wrote a lot of music for violin that he toured and performed. Something that's kind of cool that he uses a technique is that he'll bow a note, pluck a note, bow a note, pluck a note, back and forth really fast. So those are really cool pieces that you can check out. So our next question is also about violin virtuosi, and I changed. So Paganini is not an option anymore. Instead, we've added George Enescu. And the question is, what is the name of the famous violin virtuoso, let me fix that, who performs in a wheelchair because he contracted polio at age 4? So this famous violin virtuoso performs in a wheelchair because he contracted polio at age 4. Is it Joshua Bell, Jascha Heifetz, Isaac Perlman, or George Enescu? And our answer is Isaac Perlman, who plays the violin beautifully. These are all really great people to check out if you want to listen to some just stellar violin playing. All right, 2 more. Question number 11. Which of the following is not an orchestra tempo marking? Is it A, Albinoni, B, Allegro, C, Adagio, or D, Andante? And again, we're trying to figure out which one is not an orchestra tempo marking. A, Albinoni, B, Allegro, C, Adagio, or D, Andante? Your answer was A, Albinoni. So Albinoni was an Italian composer, not a tempo. And just really quick review for you is for our tempo markings, Adagio is a slow pace, Allegro is fast or quickly, and Andante is a walking pace. Okay, our last question, question number 12. What was the nickname, or what is the nickname for Symphony Number 3 by Beethoven? And again, what is the nickname for Symphony Number 3 by Beethoven? Was it A, Eroica, B, Pastoral, C, Clock, D, Surprise, or E, Ode to Joy? Again, your options are A, Eroica, B, Pastoral, C, Clock, D, Surprise, or E, Ode to Joy. Our answer is A, Eroica. Just going back to these really quick, Eroica is the nickname for number 3, Pastoral is the nickname for Beethoven's Symphony number 6, and Ode to Joy is the theme that's used in his Symphony number 9, which is the choral symphony. So that theme that everybody learns when they first start music is in his Symphony number 9. The other two options here, the Clock Symphony and the Surprise Symphony, are both by Haydn. So these are all pieces that use that are program music. So they're supposed to, Eroica is supposed to sound heroic, Pastoral is supposed to sound like you're out in the countryside, the clock sounds like a clock, Surprise Symphony has dynamics that make the music kind of jump out all of a sudden. It's supposed to shock you. And then Ode to Joy is supposed to be literally a song about happiness. So one last thing that's kind of interesting about the Eroica Symphony number 3 is that Beethoven wrote it about Napoleon. And then once Napoleon declared himself Emperor of France, Beethoven was so mad that he scratched out the title to the score. He scratched out Eroica, and it was so violent that he tore through the paper. So I just think that's kind of an interesting thing that he wrote this whole symphony for this man who was supposed to be a great leader, and then he turned out to be a tyrant instead. So that finishes up our quiz. How'd you do? How many did you get out of 12? Just curious. We'll see. Next week, I'm going to try name that piece, and there's a link here. And what we'll do is we'll go through and listen to each of the clips, and I will write out a paper, guys, that has all the options, and then you'll just try to figure out which example is which piece. So hope to see you next week. Hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you guys later.